Hey, Thrive Tribe, Tracy, the Hope Dealer, holistic health practitioner and detox coach. And I'm going to talk about day three, the third day that you're in a fast. And if you can see from the board behind me, you can see this is why I'm fasting. And I've talked about this in a couple other videos, but it's important to know that there's not just one way to fast, and specifically what fast should you be doing depending on what issues you're having. So I actually started with a 5 day fast back in 2018. If you don't know my story, I had colorectal cancer at 40. I was kind of the poster child of health and fitness. I lived a very healthy, clean lifestyle. I was mainly plant based since I was about 24 years old and really cleaned up my diet. I worked out all the time. I was a personal trainer, nutrition coach, did cleanses, all the things, and I still got cancer. And there wasn't a history of colorectal cancer in my family as well. The only person in my family that had cancer was my grandfather. And when I would, ever give my health history, doctors would typically say, well, that's a lifestyle cancer because he smoked. So I was like, okay. So cancer wasn't even on my radar, but what I did have was chronic inflammation all the time since I was about 17. I had Epstein-Barr virus. I had my wisdom teeth out a couple months after that, strep throat all the time. And I attributed a lot of my like feeling sick a lot to the fact that people told me after you have mono, you might be sick for 7 to 10 years. I also knew that I had, I was on the college American standard drinking diet, let's be honest, from like 17 to, I don't know, 20. And, then I became a Christian and everything changed at that point when it came to alcohol consumption. But I just kind of attributed to that. But now, looking back at my health history, those were the things that started to fill up my bucket and were kind of the catalyst that really tipped my body over the edge. Probably, especially, I had food poisoning. I was at a restaurant, Newport, Rhode Island, and got really bad food poisoning. And about 3 to 6 months later, and when you look at SIBO or IBS, those typically have a lot of connection to having food poisoning. So I get food poisoning, don't think much of it, right? And then I start getting sick all the time. And I woke up on St. Patrick's Day after drinking the green beer in college, and my belly looked like I was 6 months pregnant. And so I attributed to it must be the green beer. And then it was, well, it must be the fried food. And so it was like, get rid of the beer, get rid of the fried food, get rid of the, it was kind of moving me towards health, which was great. What I didn't know was about fasting. And once I had cancer, that's kind of when I came across Dr. Pompa's work. I had been introduced to him in 2011 from my chiropractor and kind of was like, okay, whatever, put his stuff away. And then when I was healing, I kind of came across it. And so it was really interesting because I did a cellular healing diet with him. I had gone through cancer, went through menopause, and was like, had 25 pounds on my body. And I was like, what is going on? And so I lost 21 pounds in the 3 weeks when I did the cellular healing diet. And then I had like 5 extra pounds to lose. My mom comes to town for Christmas and she's like, let's do this water fast. And I was like, what's that? We're just going to drink water. She's like, yes. So it was like 5 days. No kidding. It was absolutely insane. I don't recommend that to anybody to like first time, do a fast to go ahead and do that. But that's what I did. So as you can see from the bottom, immune boost 3 to 5 day fast. Okay. What I would recommend is what a lot of people are doing is intermittent fasting. 13 to 15 hours is an intermittent. You can even go to 18 hours, right? Autophagy starts at 17 hours. So that's kind of that cleaning up the cells. If you have gut issues, do a 24-hour fast. I'm telling you, it's amazing. When I healed my SIBO, I actually committed to 6 months to do the SIBO protocol. And during that time, I actually did 6 fasts. I did 5 day fast for each month. I mean, that was, again, like, I'm like crazy faster. Fat burning 36 and a dopamine push. So if you're really struggling with mental health, 48 hours dopamine push. into the brain. That is what the research has found. So what are we going to talk about? I'm going to share my screen and get into what we have going on tonight. Okay, here we are. Let me I tell you this weird thing. Let me screen. There we go. Fasting for Health Huddle Day 3. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit here. Of course I can't. Okay, there we go. All right, the solution to break through weight loss resistance, slow aging, and get well. That really, truly is fasting as a strategy. Now, when I work with clients, I take a multi-therapeutic approach, talking diet variations, diet strategies, fasting strategies, and also, looking at supplementation, like what would be correct for you. And then ultimately, and this is my Art of the Restart, programs, is how to upregulate cell function, decrease inflammation, and begin to detox appropriately. Just like if somebody came into the gym when I was training them, I'm not going to hand them a bar and say, I want you to do a bunch of, super heavy deadlifts. Okay. And maybe if you're a CrossFitter, but, now I love CrossFit, but CrossFit tends to do that. As a trainer myself, I always took a really progressive approach and met you where you were at. And we'd usually start with core. Like, let's build, everything comes from the core, everything generates from the core. Here's the 6 core exercises I want you to do. And that's what we would do in the gym. So it's the same thing with detox. You don't go get a detox tea or I'm going to do this 7-day detox or things like that. A lot of people end up with worse symptoms. So you really want to make sure it's customized and it's also done appropriately so that your body is able to be able to open up those detox pathways in order for you to start to detox and remove toxins out of the body appropriately. All right, here's what we're going to talk about tonight: beyond fasting, diet variations, feast famine cycling, and a strategy that it's free to use with things in your own kitchen to heal the cell membrane and get some electrolytes in your body to start healing today. Okay, let's go. Let's go beyond fasting. All right, first, before we get into that, I love this quote too by Plutarch. Instead of using medicine, rather fast a day. All right, so if you start feeling not so good, sometimes fasting is what you need for healing. There is a book by Dr. Pompa I love called Beyond Fasting. It has some really good chapters in it. It's like it takes you through, once you do a fast, what's next? You can get it on Amazon. But he has things like, going keto is week 1. There's a 7-day sample meal plan. He has eating less often, intermittent fasting and the eating window, diet variation, feast famine cycling, the 5-1-1 rule. So those are some strategies I teach clients. The 4-2-1 rule, the 5-day water fast, and then just a bunch of other things like fasting healed my Hashimoto's, weight loss resistance, all that type of stuff. So if you're really serious about improving your health and you want to use fasting as a strategy, this is a really good book. Here's the other one. There's a bunch of them I would recommend. These are my 2 favorites. This is Fast Like a Girl. This is by Dr. Mindy Pelt. So ladies, this is the one. She's actually writing another book called Aging Like a Girl. She's got a great podcast. I actually dropped her podcast with Dr. Nasha Winters. It was all about like HRTs and, going the natural route or using HRTs. And I think one size fits one. That's what I always tell people. This is not a black and white issue. This is going to save your life if you take them. There's lots of claims and lots of influencers out there. I know 3 people who tried to get on things like peptides and HRTs, and it actually made them more toxic. It made them worse. So you need to be able to be smart about it. If you've had cancer, you need to really think about it. It's adding something synthetic and growth hormone. So you need to think about all those things. All right. Steps to take between fasts. All right. Number 1, you want to prepare yourself to use fat as the primary energy source. Okay. This is the ketogenic diet or a cellular healing diet, carnivore diet. So before you go into a fast. So some people do seasonal fasts, maybe once every couple months. Other people, they will do a 24-hour fast every single week. The best way to be able to get quickly into ketosis and have that metabolic flexibility is to switch diets. Okay. It doesn't have to be every week. Sometimes it can be seasonal. Everybody is different. We got to customize it for people, right? You can't just be like, do this. This is the answer. This is the problem with social media, right? This is the problem with going online to getting all your information instead of actually having, a person for you. Um, but you can learn a lot. It's still, you got to know what's going to work for you. So for some people, carnivore doesn't work. They have high histamines, doesn't work. It's too much meat. Other people, they're affected by all the oxalates when it comes to a plant-based diet. So, and it's also dependent on where you're at in life. Sometimes I've known people who pre-menopause, they could do the plant-based diet no problem. Perimenopause, they needed to switch. Our bodies ancestrally, if you look back at history, we did not stick to one diet or 5 to 8 different foods, walk into the grocery store with a bunch of anti-foods that we put in our pantry. Our ancestors, had to feast and famine. And so how do you prepare yourselves? You want to go through different variations of diet. Start with a keto diet. That's pretty easy for most people. All right, creating metabolic flexibility by using diet variations and strategies. Like I just said, cellular healing, keto, carnivore. You can even throw in a plant-based if you like to do plant-based. Follow the 2-2-2 rule. We're going to get into that later to regenerate the cell membrane. So I talked about the cell in the last video I did. I just need to edit it, and then I'm going to be putting it into the group and then on YouTube. And to increase electrolytes, and we'll get into the 2-2-2 in just a minute. Refeed and repopulate the microbiome. So once you're done with fast, you want to make sure that you're getting in some things to repopulate the gut. So you can do things like kefir, sauerkraut, any of those, kimchi, bone broth, things that are going to help to read and repopulate the microbiome. We always want to think diversity. When you only eat 5 to 8 foods, monoculture, you're just creating less diversity. We don't want that. All right, create a self-care routine to decrease stress, insulin levels, and cortisol levels. Guys, this is probably the number one thing. And it's funny because I was having this conversation, I was on a podcast today, and we were talking a lot about mindset and the fact that if you don't retrain your brain and your thinking, that really ultimately some of the research that's probably going to be coming out in the next like 5 to 7 years from Joe Dispenza and some of these other, thought leaders who have done real science and real research, the brain and how we think about things can change everything for us. And I'm not saying you can think your way out of disease. I do think that there's lots of strategies to deal with things when you have a chronic illness and all that. But your mindset does matter. And so don't take it for granted. I always do a mini meditation with clients. The first thing we do is just a little mini meditation to kind of pull them out of their life, their hectic, busy life, and really start to use the breath, help to kind of go, what are we grateful for? And not just your standard answers, my family, my job, really gratitude, real gratitude. And which is really about being present. And then what can you, praise yourself for? What are the things that you are really proud of yourself for? And then what things in the future impact or could impact your energy? They have the potential to impact it and throw you off course. So what is it going to be this week for you that that maybe a friend is coming to town, or maybe something really stressful is happening at work on Friday, and that's going to throw off the plan you've had for yourself. Thinking through that is really important because that will then help you make adjustments and then get back on track. So create that self-care routine to really help you to de-stress yourself. Know when you're going to take your supplements, prep your meals, like do the things you need to do so that there is no excuse. Put your sneakers by your bed, grab your backpack of your fitness clothes so that after work you can, go to the gym, all the things. Okay, I can talk about this forever. Feast famine cycling. This is really a newer concept for me, and I love it. I think you're going to love it too. All right, 8 reasons to vary the diet, and then we're going to go into famine and feast. Okay. 8 reasons to vary it. You're not losing weight. This is weight loss resistance. It's becoming an epidemic. I give you some statistics in a video I just did. Becoming skinny fats, no energy when you're in ketosis. So if you're taking your blood and stuff and you're like, oh, I'm in ketosis, I have no energy, I don't feel well. You want to gain muscle weight. You have hormonal conditions, thyroid, adrenal, you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, you have Hashimoto's, you have Graves' disease, okay? Longevity, preventing cancers, or you're not fat adapted. Those would be some reasons to vary the diet, which almost everybody can probably pick one of those. Vary the diet. All right, here we go. Famine day. This is your fasting day. Okay. On this day, we're going to limit calories and protein for a brief time to stimulate that autophagy. And I've done a couple other videos on different fasts. Bone broth fast, 24-hour fast, all water fast, a partial fast, or maybe you're going 500 calories that day. There is so many different fasts. It's knowing when to use them appropriately. So you want to choose whichever strategy is going to fit into your lifestyle. And then I would suggest changing it seasonally. There's times if you want to change it monthly. I mean, if you are focused on a protocol, like when I did SIBO, I was fasting every month for 6 months. And then I took a break. I actually took a long break after that. All right, feast day. Okay, you guys are going to love this. All right, you fast, but then you feast. This is to help with, so your body doesn't know it's starving, basically. All right, so you're going to pick a day, you're going to eat more carbs. Okay, this sounds really fun, right? You're going to feast on sources like vegetables, yams, fruits, rice, oats. Now, if anybody has sensitivity to those, don't do those. But if you don't, get the carbs in and get about 100 grams of carbs. Like that's your feast day. We're trying to remind the body it's not starving, to make sure we're still tapping into our fat cells and not our muscle cells. So that's the goal of throwing in these feast days. I would say that if you are in that time period of menopause, or men, you have gotten to the point like you're over 50, fasting can be excellent, but you want to make sure that you are adding feast days, and you also want to make sure you don't need to be eating the way you used to, right? So take a pause for a second, think about how you're eating. Are you still eating the way you were at 35? And if that's not working for you and you want to change some things, you got to change. You either got to eat dinner earlier or skip breakfast, or maybe try one meal a day. You got to shift things. You're different. Your body's different. You're in a different time of life, and it has to be appropriate for that. Okay. Number 3 is the 2-2-2-2 strategy. Guys, this is free advice. Okay. Here it is. I mean, this is not difficult. Okay, 2 tablespoons of a monounsaturated fat, 2 tablespoons of polyunsaturated fat, 2 tablespoons of saturated fat, and 2 teaspoons of sea salt. So let's just start quickly with the sea salt. When it comes to sea salt, I want you to think about the fact that a lot of us don't have enough minerals and vitamins in our body the way that we used to. And it's just because the soil becomes more depleted. And because it's depleted, we're not getting what we need. And sometimes we need to add those extra electrolytes, especially as we get older. Our bodies aren't as efficient. And we're going to get more water. If you feel dehydrated, you're going to get more water into the body by using some electrolytes. Now, there is things like buoy and element. These things do have natural flavors and things like that in it. It's not that I would say never have them. Better to do with sea salt if you don't like that. There's something called Body Bio. If you want the link to it, I'll put it down. Just say electrolytes. I'll put the link down there. I have a code. I think it's called, I don't know. I'd have to get you the code. I have to look. I'm real bad at that. I forget sometimes, but it's pure electrolytes. That's just everything that you need. There's no taste. You just drop it in your water. Pretty simple is what it is. Okay. Saturated fats are going to be things like MCT oil in your coffee, coconut oil. Those are going to be more stable fats that you can add to when you're cooking. again, you're not like taking it by the tablespoon, but these are things that you can do which will help to heal the cell membrane. Um, Polyunsaturated fats. So let's think of some things that are polyunsaturated fat. I just want to pull up. I'm going to give you more than I usually do. I usually give like three. So here's some things. Nuts and seeds like walnuts, almonds, pecans, sunflower seeds, flax seeds. Those are going to be examples of polyunsaturated fatty fish. Salmon, tuna, mackerel, trout, sardines, tofu and soy products, chia seeds. Those would be some examples of polyunsaturated. And I usually give like three examples. So I'm like, let me give you more. Monounsaturated fats, olive oil, avocados, nuts like almonds, cashews, hazelnuts, and pecans, seeds like sesame seeds and sunflower seeds, peanut butter. Okay. Animal sources, beef, pork, chicken, eggs, raw cheese, I say raw cheese, and milk. Okay. There is some vegetable oils, but I am really, when it comes to seed oils, I'm like, get those out of your diet. There's, obviously people are starting to hear about this now. When somebody's researching something, it takes almost 7 years for the public to actually know. So when somebody's saying something you think is kind of kooky, like dig into some research because there's probably something out there with that. Anyway, those are things that you can do daily to get those to start to regenerate the cell membrane. So adding electrolytes, adding sea salt to food, MCT oil in your coffee in the morning, adding some butter in a meal, peanut butter, doing some nuts and seeds if you can. Like I can't do a lot of nuts and seeds, but other people can. Avocados, I'm a big avocado fan. So olives, I love all that. This is free. Like do it. Like take what you have in your kitchen and make sure that you have a good source, organic, all the things. But this is what you can do to start to heal the cell membrane. All right. Obviously, there's no question and answer. But if you have any, because nobody's on here, that's okay, because I'm here to teach. And if you have Q&A, if you have questions, I should say, if you have questions, just drop them below, and I will take the time to answer them. If you want my SIBO guide, just put restart. If you want my Hashimoto's guide, say Hashi. If you want the link to the electrolytes, just put electrolytes, and I will put the link down below. So thanks a lot. If you haven't joined the Thrive Tribe, if you're on YouTube watching this, please subscribe and then join the Thrive Tribe Beyond Your Diagnosis on Facebook. And you can follow me on all platforms at Tracy.